everybody. This is Rupigal. This is our Wednesday conversation in conversation where we take you to the artist studios. Today, my guest is Morgane Baroghel-Crucq. Morgane is based in Aix-en-Provence. She's a textile, I don't want to say textile designer. She's a textile inventor. She dreams up new textiles and she's going to share her story with us. So I'd like to start a little bit with the location where you are. And you are in Aix-en-Provence, which is that absolutely fabulous town in the south of France, where we actually had a little trip there 2 years ago. I took a group of ladies in the from Paris to Aix-en-Provence, and this is the views that we had, which was amazing. You know, particularly right now, I don't know where you are, but in Canada, where I am now, there's 60 centimeters of snow. It's -10. So to have a view like that is pretty special. And Aix-en-Provence is the home of Cézanne, and this is the atelier of Cézanne that we visited. And you know, we're talking about light. Our series of conversation at the moment is about light, and you can see both on this photo, which are my photos from cell phones, but no filter. You don't need filters. You can see that light of Provence, which is just absolutely spectacular. You can see on the right here, there was just caught this little ray of sun, and it was just a wonderful trip. Cézanne, obviously, who loved the Mont Sainte-Victoire and painted it a gazillion times. Here's one of the photos which I absolutely adore. Those colors make us just feel happy to see that serenity and that richness. It's really soul, it's like a balm on the soul. It's absolutely fabulous. And we also did a little bit of our painting on our trip. We went in the fields and we took a painting lesson. Then we went for some wine tasting, and we obviously ended up, because it's France, around the table with a fabulous a fabulous meal. So that was just to share a little bit with you what we were doing.
This is a card that Grandma actually sent you.
Oh,
I'm sorry, there's someone who has not muted themselves. I'm sorry to be so terrible, but if you could mute yourself, please. Otherwise, thank you. Okay. Yes, Susan, would you mind muting yourself? There we go. Fabulous. Thank you. So, Morgane, tell us a little bit about where did you start? Where did the love of fabric start?
Oh, I think, well, thank you everyone for being here first, and thank you, Isabelle, for inviting me. So first, I think it started when I was very young. My grandmother and my mother used to stitch, to knit, to make a lot of things with yarns. And I was very little, and I think that seeing her just taking a yarn and doing something with their hands, and poof, they had a textile in the ready to use from their hands, their own hands. To me, it was like magic. So I think the passion started then, when I was little. And
was it the skill, or was it the texture, the whole thing?
Not probably not the results, because I'm not crazy about what they did today, I mean, but I think it's the passion they had to do what they did. There something in their aura. I don't know what it is, but something they liked. It wasn't a job for them, so they hadn't to do it. So they just did it because they wanted to do it. So it was a
that
pleasure,
passion, yeah.
a passion, yes. And that was, it has influenced me a lot, a lot. And then I was very creative as a child, and I studied in art, applied art, to begin with. And I drew a lot, I painted a lot. And then after I studied textile in Paris.
And you studied in a very interesting school where it was a little bit like out of reality, that studio where you were. Can you describe it to us? Can you describe it to us a little bit?
So I studied in a school in Paris, which is a school of a design school, and you have an education which is theory,
academic, very academic.
Academic, and then you practice, and it's a balance between both. So I studied in a place, in that huge room, huge place. There was a lot of sun in this place, and it was full of looms. So it was completely out of time, as you said.
Yeah, it was the top floor of the school, wasn't it?
It's the top floor. So you saw the roofs, all the Parisian roofs, and it was very it was very cool.
Yeah, very romantic in a way, and almost cut out from the world, where you were in that room, self-contained.
Yes, and we could use all the yarns. Everything was in the room, so we could use every kind of yarns, every kind of materials. It was very inspiring, and we were very free to create what we wanted.
And it was the big looms. That's where you discovered the big looms.
Yes, big looms, and a jacquard loom, which is like a loom that take the whole place. Jacquard looms and big looms, yes. And I discovered weaving at school, actually, the technique itself.
Right. So back to that textile, that making that you had from your childhood. Yes. And you came out of there. You had decided that was it for you. You were going to be a textile designer.
Yes, the first time I went on the loom, I told myself, okay, you find what you want to do for the rest of your life. And I saw so many possibilities to create new things. It was 10 years later, I still think that everything is possible too. So yes.
Great. But when you come out, it's difficult to create your own studio.
Yes.
As a young student, yes.
Yes, so I worked as a textile designer for a brand, a bed linen brand, for years. First, I made an internship in New York with Katie, who is here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And as a textile designer, and I worked 7-8 years for this brand. And
what was the brand called?
Sorry?
What was the name of the brand?
Decon.
Decon, yeah. It's, of course. Decon is
yes.
It's a house linen, table linen brand.
Bed linen, and yes, bed linen, yeah. Yes, brand. Very known in France, but I'm not sure it has an international.
Well, it's certainly known in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I drew the patterns, and I worked with very closely with the industry to create the fabrics.
But that was a big responsibility, because you were just out of school. You had a couple of years of, kind of learning your skill, and then you were given that really important role for the brand.
Yes, I was 25 and I was just I was a bit frozen at the beginning, but it was very, very interesting, and I loved.
You learned a lot. Yeah.
Yes, but I really, really wanted to open my studio, my own weaving studio, and I could do it because I was working as a freelance. I opened my studio in 2014. So I had 2 jobs.
Right. Yeah. Like a lot of makers and artists start like that. So when you launch yourself, who are your clients? Who wants to work with you? Because you are not creating finished products. You are not using traditional material to create. So how did you go about it, and who wants to work with you?
So first I won a prize that a French prize, and it gave me the possibility to exhibit at Maison et Objet, which is a famous show in France. And then I met architects and designers, and I started working on small projects for lightings, and I made panels, wall panels in textile. And it's from the beginning, it's the decoration. It's my textiles are for decoration domain.
But then you got a little bored of doing this traditional, flat, unidimensional. So the innovation kicked in, and you started experimenting with different materials.
Yes. So this experimentation, it came because as I worked a lot for industry, I really, really wanted to stand out the industry. I wanted to make a craft value, because industry is everywhere. Textile industry is everywhere. And it's sometimes difficult to say that you're a weaver and that your fabric costs a price, and people are too used to pay too much, to pay too little for textile. So sometimes people don't understand the price of a craft product, at least in textile. And so I had to ask myself a lot of questions. Okay, I want to weave the rest of my life, but I need to create this value, and how can I create this value as a craft, as a weaver? So I started using unexpected material, materials that are not often used in textile. So it can be materials that are yarns, but yarns that I'm going to move from their context. For example, I weave a lot of metal yarns, but they are not made for weaving.
They're not textile yarns.
Not textile yarns, yes. Or I can create my own materials, my own yarns from other materials. I can create or transform them to adapt them to the weaving technique. So maybe we're gonna see examples after.
Yes, we will. We will.
And I also wanted to create a volume with my textile. So because industry cannot create a volume from the loom.
Yes, it has to be handmade, and it has to be the artisanal practice. And there's a question from Catherine Clark, and that will be a nice segue. Is there a textile museum in France? There's a beautiful one in Lyon.
There are many textiles.
There are many textile museums in France, yes.
The one in Lyon is very, very beautiful. Actually, there are a lot of different textiles in France. So we have silks in Lyon. You have the lace in Calais, more in the north. And here in the south, you have prints like Indian, les Indiennes.
Like the block print, like the block print.
Yes. So here you have museums for block prints techniques and all history of these techniques. And so in Lyon, the museum is more about silks and jacquard and
in the west of France, in the Pays Basque, you also have a textile industry with the stripes, and every stripe has a different. It's a little bit like the Scottish tartan.
Yes.
You have each family has its own stripe combination and pattern. So yeah, textile is a rich industry. I mean, has a very rich history in France. However, unfortunately, the chain, the supply chain of the textile industry in France is incomplete at the moment, because there are no filature. There's nowhere in France that actually manufactures the yarn. Is that correct?
Yes, sure. It's a very, very big problem, because you can't know where. Well, for example, linen is still produced in France, but it has to be sent. It has to be sent in Italy or wherever, and it is mixed with other linens to be
made into yarn.
Yes.
Yeah. So for you, it's a big issue, because when you create a new product, you need to be able to rely on your supply source. So how do you bypass that? What's the system there for you?
I try to buy threads in France, which is very complicated, but I can't know where it comes from. So it's a big problem.
Right. And you also had an issue that sometimes your creation, your innovation falls apart because your supplier disappears. You explained to me. So can you share that story with us?
Yes, I can share. I have worked on a fur that I liked, and it was very cool. It was a fur made in a very specific viscose yarn, and the mill just disappeared, so I can't produce it. So I have a big sample, and that's it, and everyone loves it, and I can't. I tried to go to other mills to create this yarn again, but they can't. They don't know how it is made. So
yeah, so that was the and that's one of the challenges of what you do, is that innovation is, you're always at the mercy of someone who needs to help you supply you and all that. And you also have an issue, is that these yarns are sold in huge quantities, and you don't need huge quantities.
Yes, sometimes it is a very sourcing is a very is a problem, because I have to find mills that sell like less than 5 kilos of yarns, or I'm going to be
inundated with it. Yes. So let's have a look.
No, I have found now. 10 years later, I have found I have found great suppliers of yarns, but it took a long time to find.
So I'd love now to get a little bit inside your head and understand. I mean, you talked about the passion that you inherited from your mother and your grandmother, that desire that's inside and that you have to express. And when someone comes to you with a commission, how do you dig deep and find that passion, and what inspires it to have the passion meet the commission and create that exceptional piece of art?
It's a very hard question. I don't know. I think that meeting someone, well, the encounter is, well, I don't know, it's a discussion, it's the
chemistry.
Yes. Yes, I can easily understand what the person in front of me wants, what she wants to create as an atmosphere, I mean. And then my job is to create with my techniques and what
to interpret it.
Interpret it, yes, with my techniques, and what I want to do too. It's
it's a meeting of the mind, yeah.
Yes, yes. It's a hard question. I don't know. I have to.
So can you? No, but it's you know, I understand. When we talk about our emotions, it's difficult, particularly for creative people, because it's so instinctual and instinctive, and when you start asking questions and to deconstruct it, it's a little surprising. Can you work with someone that you don't really like or you're indifferent to?
It's not about the person. It's not about if I like the person or not. It's more if I don't see anything, if I don't feel anything of what the person is talking about. If I'm indifferent to not indifferent,
the project.
If I don't feel anything, it's going to be very difficult to create something. But if I see pictures or okay, I can do something. I know I can take things of what she's saying, but it's possible, and it happened that the person talks and it's not my universe, it's not my colors, it's not my the warmth I like in projects, or and it happened, and I said no, I can't. I can't.
Yeah. So let's have a look. We're going to have a look at some of the pieces that you have created, and maybe you can tell us the story of these pieces, and then we'll go and snoop around your studio and have a look at your but let's have a look first on the screen. I'm going to share the screen, and let's have a look here. So here we are, and talk about light.
Yes.
and tell us a bit the story of this piece.
The story of this piece. So this piece was sent to Valérie, who is with us. So this is actually a weaving with a silk and a particular brass yarn, and this yarn it is very resistant, and it's going to be it is going to take its own shape. So in the picture on the left, the warp is
shrinking.
It's untight. You see, when
it's loose.
When I weave,
loose.
Yes. So when I weave, the warp is tight.
Yeah.
No. No. And
Just,
and
yeah.
and here on the picture, the warp is loose, so the brass yarn is taking its own shape.
Right.
So
yeah. So what's happening here is that you're letting the brass yarn shape the warp that normally is tight and resist that
yes.
pressure.
Mhm.
Now that the warp is loose,
Yes.
it's that fluidity and that shape is happening in a very organic way.
Yes.
And so yeah.
No, so when I cut the warp, you have the picture on the right, and every shape is different. I can make 10 times this fabric, and you're gonna have 10 different shapes.
Mm-hmm. Because the tension is different, and because the thread is reacting differently.
Yes,
to
it's
the
the thread. It's the thread. It's to me, when I work it, when I use it in the weaving, it's alive. To me, it's alive.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And what was the project? Can you share it with us, or not?
I'm not sure I'm going to talk about it tonight because it's still secret.
Okay, perfect.
No,
fair enough. Well,
it's a project with Valérie, and we are well, she is making a lighting with it.
fantastic.
Yes.
Well, I hope both wall scones. Okay. Well, I hope that Valérie, you'll share the finished project with us. I would love to share it with the
Yes.
audience. It would be fantastic. Thank you. So, how long does it take for you to, create a piece like that? Did you have to reinvent? Is that piece, was it from scratch, or did you use technique that you had used before, or?
Yes, I used a technique. It was from another project. Well, I started using this material, this brass yarn, and it was a mistake. My supplier sent me the wrong brass yarn, and I started weaving. It was a projection, actually, so I was completely panicked because it didn't look like what it was supposed to. But at the same time, I told myself, okay, that's beautiful. I have to, well, later I'm going to do something with this. And I worked a lot on the density of the warp yarns and the prints on the warp, because I print or I paint on the warp.
Right.
And I created a bigger piece, a bigger fabric with this technique.
Mm-hmm. So you start with a drawing. How do you, or does it just in your head, and then you get on the loom and you try and you see how it develops on the loom?
Sometimes it's right on the loom. If I have a textile, a texture in the head, or if I have something more graphic, I draw a lot, I paint a lot before.
Right.
If I want colors, I paint with, well, I make color tests before.
Right. So I'm going to go back to sharing the screen because there's a lot more to share. Different technique, but this one is quite spectacular. So you mentioned earlier that you paint the warp, and I think we can see it here.
Yes.
So you have done a screen print, is that right, on the warp before you weave?
Yes. So the colors you see are hand painted on the warp. The dégradé from the blue to the green It's hand painted, and the white dots you see are made with a silk screen after the painting, and then after that I weave, and here I wove with a brass, normal brass.
So is the weft here is only the brass, and then the warp is the yarn?
Yes, it's silk.
Oh, it's
yarn.
amazing. So the color that you have on the warp comes through the metal yarn.
Yes, it gives a color to the brass, to the gold. So it has very interesting reflections.
Absolutely. And we're going to see the finished product here, which is unbelievable.
Yes.
I mean, this is, Cézanne has nothing on you.
Thank you, but no. I made this in April 20. So usually I work a lot in black and white. I feel comfortable working with more graphic with ink, black on white, and I love that, and I think it's a part of what I do, my style. And last year I felt like a urge to work with colors. I think I needed to
yes, I wonder why.
Yes, and that's funny because I think it's going to it made, well, it was a new start and a fresh start with colors, and I needed to see further, and I think that's why I need to work on horizons, on stripes like that, color stripes, and I needed to see ahead.
So we have two questions here from Sarah. What kind of paint do you use, and how do you control the dripping, is the first question. And the second question is there no weft in that wall piece? The weft is the metal yarn, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how do you, what kind of paint do you use, and how do you control the dripping?
I use paints. Well, I'm not going to use the same paints whether I have a silk warp or a linen warp or a cotton warp, for example. So here I use silk paintings. Paintings that are used for silk. It's inks. And I control the dripping with the equipments because they are painting everywhere on the loom, on the floor. So I have to put a lot of papers everywhere, and I use a lot of painting anti-fusant. How would you say that? Fusé.
Comment, quel est fusé?
In French.
Ça, je sais pas. Je sais même pas ce que c'est en français.
Bon, pas grave.
Oh, so it doesn't glue the threads to each other?
No. So it doesn't spread to
it doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay,
you have something that I can control the fact that the painting, the ink is not going to spread to the other yarns, but there are a lot of
to bleed.
Yes.
Okay, so to do the dots, do you use, is it resist technique to do the white dots, or is it just when you paint around, when you left the white dots?
Yeah, it's a silk screen.
It's silk screen. Okay.
Silk screen, yes.
Right. And Catherine is asking, is the metal yarn hard to work with, and does it hurt your hands?
It's hard to, yes, at the beginning it's hard, and the first time I told myself, no, why would someone do that? So, but when you work with it
long enough,
yeah, now it's okay.
Okay.
And
so
sometimes it hurts hands because I have a sample I'm going to show you, and you have the warp and the weft, which is a brass, and then so when you set the loom with the brass yarns, it's yes, it can hurt.
So, well, let's have a look at it. Why don't you bring it over and we'll have a look at it. If you have questions, please put them in the chat box. Don't hesitate. Don't be shy.
It's this one.
Okay.
And here you have the warp here.
Yeah, yeah.
And you see, it's very, you can cut yourself with the.
It's very sharp.
Yes. And the weft is in this way. So I love this one because it's in volume. It's in 3D.
Yeah, I'm going to show a photo of it, but it's wonderful to, if you can just maybe put it in front of the camera without moving it so much. So, and maybe not as close because the light is, there we go. That's it. We can see the patterns, and it's absolutely wonderful. And how thick, you said it's 3D, how thick is it? Those are real cubes. I mean, they have a volume.
Yes, it is 1 centimeter.
Okay. Can you show the edge of it so we can just see the edge? Here we go. That's it. Yes, we can see it's incredibly incredibly. So maybe I should share the screen again. There's a nice photo of that. So that's the loom that you have set up with all your metal threads.
Yeah.
How long does it take to set up the loom like that? And how many threads have you got?
Not many. I have 8 yarns for a centimeter. So it's not that much. I have I'm going to show you. I have on the loom there 30 yarn, and I can have like 60, or so 8 yarn is not like
per centimeter. Yeah.
It takes me a day to make all the setting.
Okay. So we can see here the piece that has been made with just, so this one presumably, does it have any non-metallic yarn, or is this all metal?
This one has silk yarn, and
silk yarn.
I painted the stripes on the silk before weaving.
It's amazing. So here we are. This is the piece you were showing us just now. That we can see all the 3D. Amazing. So it's not the end of our conversation. We're going to go back to you, and maybe we can have a little look around your studio.
Yes. So this is the loom here, and so I was saying that I am setting the loom, so it's not finished. Well, I can't weave because the warp is not tight. But what I can show you is that, so the warp is put on the back beam here, and then all the yarns have to be in one handle like this, and then they pass through a kind of comb here.
Right.
And then so for the weaving, I use this.
Canette.
So navette. I don't remember the shuttle.
Shuttle, yes.
Yeah, it's the same, the same one. And I have. I'm going to show you the other loom, which is bigger. I can make a wider fabrics with it. So the beam, the back beam is bigger too. So the warp
Right.
is rolled on the beam, and it comes here. And so here you see I am.
So how many threads have you got per square centimeter here?
Here 30.
30.
30
Right.
and 90 centimeter wide.
So that's a fair amount of threads to put through.
Yes. So you can see it here.
Yeah.
There are a lot of threads. And to set this loom, it's going to take me like maybe 2 more days.
2 days. Huh?
So
Yeah.
like 4 days
Mm.
for one project. So that's a lot.
What do you do if one of your threads breaks?
I can repair it. I take a part of thread, another thread, and I with a knot you can repair it.
Mm. It's a special knot, I assume.
Yes, yes. It's a flat knot which is very solid, and that's okay. Threads can work.
So those are your samples of new
These
creations.
are small samples of the collection of the collection. So you saw this one, and with the same textile construction, you can do things as different as this, which is this is a cotton warp, and the weft is copper and brass mixed with silks with different colors. So it's where you can have that's why you have the
Flexibility.
Yes, the flexibility and the shades, the dégradé.
Does the metal change color over time?
Brass a little, but I can, well, if it's not varnished, it can. Copper can, but it has to be enameled. So I buy yarns that doesn't change color.
Right, of course. And these fabrics are used primarily, as you said, for interior decor. I mean, your clientele is mostly the luxury sector in France, isn't it?
Yes, luxury. For example, I showed you this piece. For example, this kind of piece can be not exhibited, but can be bought by hotels or private residents. But most of my projects are for hotels.
For hotels, yeah.
Rooms or lobby or. So here are different types of textile I made. This is in the last collection. It's a brochet, so the warp is painted, and then you have a brochet of metal yarns. I love this one because it's supple and not supple here, and this one too. I'm starting weaving wool, so I'm doing this kind of project. This is mohair mixed with metal.
And you're the only one who works. I mean, you don't have anybody working for you. So these projects, they take months and months and months. Is that right?
Yes.
They do.
I'm the only one here.
Right.